Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us today for the Action Center's first Fireside Chat of 2022. We're so happy to be back with you and to be here to talk about such an important topic, diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is our first Fireside Chat of the year of many. We're going to be having these quarterly. And if you're interested in what the upcoming topics are, keep an eye out in our newsletters. We'll be telling you when the Fireside Chats are coming up and what the upcoming topics are. If you've been to our Fireside Chats before, you know that I am occupying the chair that John Covert usually occupies, and I'm usually there. He's interviewing me, but I have the honor today to be here talking to two members of our staff who are just amazing. And we're going to be talking together about diversity, equity, inclusion. On my left today is Laurie Wolowitz. She's our director of programs, and later you'll be meeting Tracy Sluzales, who is our outreach manager for our program operations. Just a couple of housekeeping notes before we jump into our conversation. If you would like to be part of our conversation today and you have a question, please enter it in your chat. We will be getting to as many of those at the end as we can. If we don't get to your question, you still have a burning need to know something that we talked about or something that we missed, know that we will be sending out an email afterwards to address any questions we didn't have time to get to. So please put your questions in the chat. We'll do our very best to get that communication out to you right after this program. So again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Laurie, for being with us today. I'm so excited to be having this conversation because diversity, equity, and inclusion is such an important part of what the Action Center does. It's so in line with our values of serving the community with dignity, making sure that we are responding to everyone in the community who has a diverse set of experiences, diverse needs, and making sure that we are really listening and connecting to those in the community who have diverse needs and who need to be served in different ways. And so this work is really important to me. I know it's important to you. And I wanted to just take this time to talk to our community about the ways in which the Action Center is really being very deliberate about these efforts and making some, I think, really exciting strides to better serve our community and have even greater impact with some of the members of our community who we may not have served quite as well in the past or who may not have felt so connected to us. So thanks, Laurie, for being here.
Of course.
If you don't mind, I'll just jump right into my first question for you, which is, as our director of programs and the person that's really in charge of our participant-centered work, can you share with the audience a little bit about what you see the value of DEI, a DEI focus is, and why it's so critical for our community?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everybody. It is really hard to ask for help. And it's even harder to ask for help when you walk into a place and you don't hear your language or you don't see yourself represented in the people that are there to serve you, right? So it's super important for us to be a welcoming place for everybody and to be able to have people feel comfortable, have people be spoken to in their own language, have people feel like there's somebody who I think that I can connect with. Seeing and hearing people that adds to your feeling of being welcomed. And we're really striving to be a safe space for everybody in the community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's so important. I mean, that is the value that we live. And it's not the same for everyone. Like some people need different things to feel safe, to feel like they belong.
Yeah.
So we're really focused on that.
Yeah, we're being very intentional and very deliberate, as you said earlier. And the intentionality, I think, is it feels good to be making these efforts.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So can you share a little bit about the Action Center's journey around accessibility and being able to be responsive to all of those different needs? What does that look like? When you got to the Action Center, you've been here about 5 years now. How have things evolved in that time?
Well, that's a great question, Pam. And I think it's important to look at how we've evolved because we have been building a foundation over many years. And we're taking a two-pronged approach. We have to look at ourselves internally, and we're looking at how we are to the external community. And from an internal perspective, we are making a very concerted effort to hire staff that are bilingual in English and Spanish. We have been trying to do that over the last 5 years, and quite often we didn't have the right candidate. And we were in a pinch to hire a staff person. So we forwent, we let that go. Sorry, English teachers out there. We let that go, and we just hired the best person for the job. Now we're waiting. We are waiting until we find the right person, also the right person that is bilingual in English and Spanish. And right now we have 4 full-time staff people who are bilingual in English and Spanish, and who are members of the Latinx community. And so I feel really proud about that, and we as an agency feel proud about that. We're hiring people now with, we say, lived experience. And what I mean by lived experience is that people who have been in a position that they have had to use our services perhaps, or they have hit major bumps in the road, and we want their experience. They've made, so that's an important piece. So again, all different viewpoints can be represented. And we have people that are bringing so many different ideas to the table when we talk as a programs team about how can we do things differently.
I just think that's so, I'm sorry to interrupt
No, that's
your
okay.
flow, but that's so important that there are members of our team who represent the community that we're trying to reach and serve, because it's too often that an organization's staff and leadership do not reflect the community. And then you're sort of operating in a vacuum without truly understanding what the needs might be. So
Yes.
I'm so excited about that step forward as well.
Yeah, and it's great because these folks that we've hired love talking about it as well. It's not anything that's hidden. They're very proud of the fact, and in fact, one person in particular is working here because of their experience getting services from us, which warmed my heart to no end, right? We're learning about ourselves as a staff, and we're learning about our differences. And with that, we can more authentically work with the community and view differences within the community. And that all adds up. We've had DEI trainings for our whole staff. We've had one last Wednesday. We have another one planned for next month. We have a DEI committee, a board level committee that is focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion, which Tracy will talk about in more detail a little bit later. So in terms of externally, we used to just have our program services flyer was in English and Spanish. Now our whole website, the whole section of our website about getting help is in English and in Spanish. And that's important for people to be able to access everything that they need. I'm sorry, we created cheat sheets for volunteers who may not speak the language that somebody's in, so that they can look at things and communicate more seamlessly with people. We've contracted with a telephone service, a live translation service, so that we can get somebody on the phone and directly talk through this translator, through this interpreter, of exactly what somebody is saying, which has helped to make the experience feel that much more comfortable for the folks that are coming. Last Thanksgiving, with our Thanksgiving food distribution, we offered masa, which is corn flour, to folks, or wheat flour, and we allowed people to select one or the other. Many members of the Latinx community prefer masa. So that was a big deal for us to be able to offer those cultural differences for people with regard to food.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So some of these things feel like they're maybe minor details, but it sounds like they mean a great deal and send a signal to the community that we are really here for everyone and trying to be responsive in that way. Yeah. Anything else you want to share with us that new practices at the Action Center has evolved to in recent months? Yeah,
I think it's important to note that so with COVID, the whole world has turned online. And so much is happening online. You can apply for bill pay assistance or rent assistance or utility assistance or our Betty Proctor Fund financial assistance. It used to be all of that was just in English. Now we've translated all of those forms into Spanish. we have an email address, just a generic, it's called gethelp@theactioncenter.org. And we created on our Spanish part of our website, we created another email address that is reciba ayuda at the Action Center. So again, somebody that speaks Spanish can type their email to us in Spanish, and that is answered by one of our Spanish speaking staff. So nothing has to be translated. We got a grant from Food Bank of the Rockies to really expand our diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that grant provided us the financial means to have trainings, to purchase food that is culturally accessible, culturally relevant for everybody that sees us. And as you said, Pam, each of these things in and of itself feels really little, but when you take the sum total of everything, I think it really does add up to a lot, and to enhancing somebody's experience that they have when they come to the Action Center, which is really what we're trying to do.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing all of that with our audience today. I'm really excited, to talk further with Tracy about some of the ways that we're bringing some of these services out to the community. So I'll let you go ahead and trade places with Tracy
Bye, everybody.
now, and we'll get into a conversation. The Action Center has done all of these things that Laurie talked about to make sure that when people come to the Action Center, they know that they're able to find someone who speaks Spanish. They know they're able to find someone now who looks like them, who has life experience that's similar to theirs. But we're also really working to be proactive and to take our services out into the community, to not wait to see if folks from other parts of the community find the Action Center and feel safe coming here, but to really work to build relationships with those in the community who maybe were hesitant to come to the Action Center in the past. One thing that we know is that, especially with folks who come from minority populations, immigrant community, there are many reasons why it can be intimidating and they can have fear about coming to the Action Center. And so in this past year, the Action Center finally was able to make a move to having an outreach manager and to start working to bring our services out into the community. And I'm so happy to introduce Tracy Sluzales, who has just been a fantastic addition to our team and has been working to bring our services to families in the community, especially through partnerships with Deaf Coast Schools, who might otherwise not be accessing our services. So welcome, Tracy. I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you for having me.
I wondered if you could just start by telling our audience a little bit about yourself and what drew you to this work and to the Action Center in particular, and the purpose of expanding our reach in the beginning to the Latinx community and hopefully beyond.
Absolutely. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Tracy Sluzales, and I also want to say hola to all of our Spanish-speaking friends that I know are joining us now. So I am from El Paso, Texas, which is a border town, and I've lived here in Colorado for about 9 years now. And so it's just very near and dear to my heart, serving people of the Latin community and Spanish-speaking community as well. So we did see a need that there was a gap and we needed to bridge that gap. So that's why I started on the board back in last January. It's been a year now. And that was my goal, to join the board, to be a voice for the Latino community and help, bring about change. And I joined at the perfect time because the staff and the board was 100% behind this idea. And that's why things have been progressing so quickly, because of this support. So on the board, I started the DEI committee, and now I'm an employee as the outreach manager. Juliana Garcia is now our chair, and she does an excellent job and is wonderful about translating, about being at all of our events to make sure we have Spanish-speaking volunteers. And we've made a lot of great strides on that committee. One of the great accomplishments that we did was start the Facebook en Espanol. So if any of you speak Spanish, please go to our Action Center page on Facebook. And within that, there's a group called the Action Center in Espanol, and all the content is in Spanish. So we translate everything, and that is accessible to everybody. We let you know about updates. We let you know about our services, about volunteer experiences. Another effort that we have is seeking out the Spanish-speaking volunteers. So I'm very proud to say I'm one of 4 of Spanish-speaking staff and Latino staff. And we also want that population to reflect in volunteers as well. Another cool thing that we got done with the help of marketing is our beautiful logo got translated to Comunidad, Compasión, and Conexión. So we use that on our Spanish, on all of our Spanish literature and the Facebook page as well. So we're really making an effort to make it feel equitable to Spanish speakers, that they are included, that we are trying to reach them, that we are here to serve them as well. And I feel like this last year we have made really great progress. And I'm
Can
really
I interrupt you for 1
Yes.
second? We are giving us so much good information, but I
Yeah.
wanted to give you a chance to tell our audience a little bit more. You alluded to a gap
Mhm.
that there was maybe a group of people in our community that weren't coming to the Action Center. And so I wondered if you could talk a little bit more about that and why you think our outreach work and getting out to the community is so important. And then maybe share a little bit about what you've been doing as you go outward
Sure.
to build relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. So things have changed a lot at the Action Center, a lot of great positive moves. So even prior to COVID, a lot of barriers have been gotten rid of, such as asking for ID and documentation, which has put some fear in some populations, especially the immigrant population. So I've had the opportunity with my outreach. We work with 6 schools in the Jeffco public school district that we visit, and we deliver groceries to. And this gives me the opportunity to speak to parents that speak Spanish, let them know, hey, we have Spanish speaking staff. We are here to serve you. And then I also give them the information that that has changed. So I let them know that it's a safe place to come. We're not a public charge service, which means that this is not going to count against them if they are trying to get their residency. And that's a big one. We let them know that they don't need ID, they don't need documents. I tell them the information that we do need, but I tell them that it's not shared with anybody. And I assure them that it's a safe place to come. I give them my information. I let them know that I'm one of 4 Spanish speaking staff, and that everything is accessible to them in Spanish. So
That's so great. That must allay a lot of fears.
yes.
And the other thing that occurs to me as you're talking is that, just the fact that you're bringing resources to the families helps to start to build that relationship and that trust in a way they can see, oh, she really is here for us. Oh, the Action Center really is here for us. They have brought food. I think sometimes we connect with the school liaisons with clothing
Yes.
and connect folks to other resources at the Action Center, like our emergency bill pay and our rent assistance. So it seems like you're just building a bridge that can then lead to so much more and to lead to trust.
Right. And one of the really cool things is, I wish I could give you numbers. I don't have numbers, but all I could say is that we are receiving more people at our clothing bank, at our food distribution, and we're also getting a lot more calls in Spanish. So we know that the outreach is working. And when I meet somebody, I'm sure to tell them, like, please reach out, please tell your family, because we want this to spread throughout the community. We really want everybody to know how the Action Center has changed and how we can serve them, and not to have any fear.
That's so fantastic. Thank you so much for all of that work. I wonder, we don't have a lot of time, and we want to leave time for some questions, but I wondered if you could talk just a little bit about your vision for this position and this part of our work going forward, because we've been talking a lot about the Spanish speaking community today, but all of us know that there are many other groups of people in the community who have diverse backgrounds, speak different languages. What's the vision for going forward with this work to make sure that we really are inclusive of everyone in the
Yeah.
community.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up. So the reason why we started with the Latino community is because they are the largest um, minority in Jefferson County. According to the last census, in Jefferson, they're over 15% Latino. So that's why we started there. It just made perfect sense. However, you know, we started the diversity, equity, inclusion, which means that we want to serve all people. So some of our future plans include collecting primary languages. So once we gather that information, then we'll know which population we need to serve next. And then the other really cool thing is we are learning so much because this is a new process for the Action Center. So we are learning as we serve the Latino community how to best reach. So we're going to use all these strategies and tools to reach out to other populations. It is definitely in our plans, and thank you for this platform so that way our community knows exactly what the Action Center is doing.
Yeah, it's great. I think we have a lot of work ahead of us, but it's really exciting work, and it really helps the Action Center to be a much stronger, more responsive organization to community needs. I think we might have some questions. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We are really excited to answer anything that might be on your mind. Tracy, I wondered if you could talk a little bit about some of the other ways that you've been able to support the families at the school. I know you were very involved with the holiday gift shop. Maybe there's a particular story you remember from your work during the holiday gift shop.
Yes.
And you did the Adopt a Family program with many of the
Right.
families you're reaching with our schools.
Right. Yeah, that was a busy time, but a good time because we blessed so many families. In Adopt a Family, we had over 248 families adopted, which served 730 children. So we know that the Action Center really made a difference in so many families' lives. The holiday gift shop helped hundreds and hundreds of family. I wish I had the number. I know it was over 700 families. So the excellent part and the part that I'm very proud of is families were able to register in Spanish this year. So before they might need a translator, or before it might have taken a long time for staff to get back, but myself and a Spanish speaking volunteer were able to do registrations over the phone. And there was also a Google form online, so that way a Spanish speaker did not need any assistance from a school liaison or from a translator. They were able to go online or go on their smartphone and set that up all on their own. And that's the first year that this happened. I do know one of the stories that really touched me was we had a thank you station. So when people went to pick up their gifts, families were able to write thank you notes. And there was a grandmother that was writing her note, and she kept wiping tears. And, you know, I put my hand on her hand and I said, "What's going on?" And she told me she had just gotten out of the hospital the day before.
Wow.
And she was caring for 8 of her grandchildren. And
goodness.
that she, you know, was surviving on a disability check every month. And she just told us how much, you know, these gifts meant, because they wouldn't have been able to have Christmas gifts without the program. So, so we're just so very grateful to all of our sponsors and our donors that help make this possible. Because it definitely does make an impact. And the Adopt a Family is not just toys. The beautiful part of that program is it's clothing, it's shoes, it's winter coats that they're able to ask for. So it's necessities as well as toys.
Wow. And I think you were reaching families that we wouldn't have reached in the past, because we were getting the word out there in Spanish, because you were at the schools building relationships with those liaisons. And holiday gifts is just one example of the resources that these families are now accessing through the relationships that you've started to build. So thank you so much for all of that work. It really changed the reflection of our holiday gift season this year. And it makes me feel really good that we know we're really not just waiting. As I said, we are very proactively making sure that we're getting the message out to the full community that the Action Center is here and wants to be responsive to the diversity of need that is out there in the community. Another thing that I thought of as you were talking is just about hearing more from our participants. And the relationships that you're building in the schools really allows us to hear the voices of our participants very directly. I mean, that's always in the work of the Action Center. As people come to our building, we really pride ourselves in those deep relationships. You know, they may come for food initially, but then we sit down with them and we have those conversations to find out about the needs. But now we are able to have those deeper conversations with families and individuals who might not have come to the Action Center before, and to hear from our community members about what the Action Center can do differently. Perhaps there's something that we haven't even thought of, like as Laurie was talking about the different types of food that folks from Latinx community might want. And that's even just saying Latinx community. I mean, there's different cultures within that community who need and want different types of food. And we wouldn't know it until we really have the opportunity to build those relationships, and then can be very thoughtful about the kinds of food we're asking for from Food Bank of the Rockies, so that we know that our grocery reflects the needs and the cooking habits of much more than just sort of the general population that we might have served in the past. So I think these relationships are so critical, and these small changes mean so much.
Yes.
All right, well, thank you so much. I hope that our friends out there who have been watching today have learned a lot about how intentional the Action Center is being around this work. We know we still have a long way to go. We're really just beginning, but it's all a really exciting learning process for us. And we have built the team that is really here and able to continue to be responsive in the way that we've always wanted to be. So thank you so much, Tracy. Thank you, Laurie, for being with us. And thanks to all of you who joined us today for your continued support and interest in all that goes on at the Action Center. We will be sending a follow-up email. So any questions that we didn't get to, and we'll send a recording link out so you could share this program with friends who maybe weren't able to join us today, so they can hear a little bit more about what's happening with us at the Action Center. Thanks so much, and we will see you again very soon. Take care.